Bob Day is running for the Senate for South Australia. He was a former federal senator before. Bob, how are you going today?
Good morning, Ricky. I'm going really well, thanks.
And you're having another go at getting back into the Senate. Just explain your candidacy for us. You're running solely as an independent with a running mate. You don't have a party with you this time.
Yeah, that's right, Ricky. But look, before we talk about the election, there's a scene in the movie, you may have seen it, Black Hawk Down, where the sergeant yells to one of his soldiers, look, get in a truck and drive. But I've been shot, the soldier replies. And the sergeant says, we've all been shot. Now get in and drive. I couldn't sit by and watch both Labor and Liberal governments introduce their anti-family, anti-Christian, anti-business policies and not try to do something about it. I couldn't say, oh, look, sorry, I can't help you. I've been shot. I felt I had to get back in the truck and drive. Yeah, as we know, bad things happen to everyone. Some have been shot by cancer, or others by the loss of a child, or by an addiction, or a moral failure, or being accused or even convicted of a crime that you didn't commit, or a relationship breakdown. I'm no different, Ricky, except for me, mine was very public. In my case, as you know, it was a business failure. I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. I'd bitten off more than I could chew, and I paid the price. But you can't let your past mistakes define you. You have to get back in the truck and drive, and that's what I'm doing.
Yep, you're literally having another shot at it, if I can carry the analogy further, Bob.
Yes.
Now, so Bob, the posters you've got up around South Australia, have got family very prominent in there. You mentioned anti-family legislation. What is it you're wanting to achieve for families across South Australia?
Look, I've basically called my campaign Unfinished Business. As we know, Australia has social and economic problems that it wants to solve, like employment, uncertainty, high mortgages, which force both parents out to work, high cost of living. You know, educating and raising children is so expensive, power prices, water prices, then the social ills caused by the rupturing of family relationships. There's addictions to alcohol, gambling, drugs, pornography, and of course there's even, suicide prevalence. And also Australia has social and economic goals that it wants to achieve. We want to achieve full employment and affordable housing and low crime rates. But my contention, having worked and been a politician, is looking to politicians and bureaucrats and regulators to solve these problems and achieve these goals is a lost cause. The major parties and their machine men just live in a world that is so foreign to common people, Simply put, they don't know enough to make the correct decisions about people's lives. And the truth is, those at the top, those in power, actually know less than those at the bottom. So the main aim is to put the family at the centre of every conversation.
Now, you mentioned you mentioned about employment and full employment. Isn't Australia at the moment probably the closest it's been for decades to having full employment?
Yeah, I think what do they call employment, Ricky? Is it 1 hour a week? If you're working 1 hour a week, you're considered employed. This is the way they manipulate statistics and figures. If you ask, again, the average person, what would you consider someone being employed, they certainly wouldn't say someone who's working 1 hour a week. Look, underemployment, people who want more hours or people who would rather not work, particularly parents one of whom would rather be at home with their children, but they're forced out to work because of high mortgages. And someone has to go into bat for the family on these matters.
Now, you mentioned about the high mortgage. The Labor Party over the weekend had their policy or campaign launch, and one thing they're talking about is this Help to Buy scheme, claiming that they'll help 10,000 Australians buy a home. John Howard said last week in Brisbane he didn't believe there was a housing crisis. Is there a crisis in the housing sector?
Most definitely not. There's no crisis in the housing sector. There never has been. The cost of building a house, see, this is the subtlety. This is where they deceive people. We talk about housing crisis. There is no housing crisis. You open the Sunday Mail, you can get a new house built for 100,000 or just a little bit more. There's not a housing crisis, Ricky. There's a land affordability crisis. John Howard was aware of this. I've been pushing this now for a number of years. He's well aware of it. Peter Costello, when he was Treasurer, had a big report on the housing affordability and the causes of it. Basically, what's happened over the last 20 years is we've built a huge brick wall, to use an analogy for the housing sector. We've built a huge brick wall across the road to home ownership, and what they're doing, what Labor's basically doing, is offering you a ladder and say, look, here's a ladder to help get over the wall. And you say, well, hang on, those rungs on that ladder look a bit shonky. What if house prices go down or go up? What if interest rates go up? The answer is to bulldoze the wall. And the way we bulldoze the wall is by freeing up and making land more affordable, like it was for 100 years, from 1900 right through to the year 2000. You could build new suburbs on quarter-acre blocks on the fringe of our cities, and people then could have a big backyard. They'd have fruit trees. They'd grow a veggie garden. They could even have a few chickens, play cricket in the backyard like we used to, that sort of thing. We don't have a housing. John Howard is right. We don't have a housing affordability crisis. We have a land affordability crisis.
And that's effectively what John Howard did say last week. He said the issue is on land supply. And indeed, Labor seems to have done at least some sort of hat tip to this in their policy launch. They say they want a National Housing Supply and Affordability Council to ensure the Commonwealth plays a leadership role in increasing housing supply and improving affordability. Does it sound like a solution to you?
It's like, let's get all the arsonists together, all the people that have lit bushfires, and let's see if we can get them as a solution. You don't want to consult the arsonist on how to prevent bushfire. They're the wrong people. The wrong people are running the show. That's the problem. We've got a group of politicians and public sector bureaucrats that want to control this particular. They want to control every industry. They're the ones that have messed it up. Right, like I say, for 100 years they had very little involvement in the housing and land development industry. Then they got involved with planning laws and you name it, and that's when the problem started. The cost started to go up. Restrictions. You restrict the price of the supply of anything, and the price will go up. And that's what they did. They severely restricted the amount of land available for new housing, and costs blew out accordingly.
What's your policy proposition on the housing front and making housing affordable in South Australia?
Well, there's only one solution. It's supply. I mean, anyone that's driven from, you drive up through Elizabeth and up towards Gawler, and then you drive all the way to Balaclava, and there's ample amount of land around a lot of our regional, sort of out of fringe towns of, Manly Bridge and Roseworthy and all those that are only 5-10 minutes out of towns like Gawler. I'm not talking about concreting over the Barossa Valley or anything like that, but there's very low quality, farming land that's from Gawler all the way up to Balaclava. That's only 10 minutes out of Gawler. It's only 5-10 minutes in a car, and we could build new suburbs. And the great fallacy in all this, and all the reasons that people put up and planners put up is, we've got to stop the urban sprawl because it's too far from the CBD. The truth is only 5% of people who want to live on the urban fringe actually work in the CBD. What happens with affordable land is you then get affordable industry and commercial arrangements and developments as well where people work. This is what was always the way that it was done. It worked really well. It's good for the environment. Housing is low-density housing where people plant trees and shrubs, and it attracts lots and lots of flora and fauna. Whereas the way it is now, obviously farmers don't want flora and fauna. They put pesticides on it and, fertilizers and all that sort of stuff. So there's no real environmental reasons to stop urban growth in the right context, in the right areas that could easily alleviate. And that is for those who want it. Not everybody wants to live an hour from the CBD, but a lot of people do. And for those who do, there's an affordable housing option where you can get a house and land on a quarter-acre block for under $200,000.
Well, Bob Day, we'll have to leave it there. We'll catch you again, hopefully before the 21st of May. All the best, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Ricky. Look forward to it.
For those that are in crisis, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or Beyond Blue on 1300 22 46 36 or www.beyondblue.org.au. And as a matter of disclosure, I was the Chief of Staff to former Senator Bob Day from June 2014 to November 2016.